Good afternoon, everybody, and thank Furlough, it's Friday again, and thank Furlough, it's a really hot and sticky Friday here, so I trust you are all enjoying yourselves, or probably listening to this in a few hours' time when it's a bit cooler and you're sitting at home with your gin and tonic or whatever it is that you have at night to calm down. We have apparently quite a lot to talk about today, or saying that, of course, it's Jacquie Mountain has a lot to talk about. Jacquie, hello.
Hello everyone, nice to be back with you. Doesn't a week go fast?
So your legislation that normally comes out about 20 minutes after we've come off air.
Came out at about 11 o'clock this morning, so.
Great, fantastic. Well, look, I'll let you have the floor. Just keep going, please.
Okay, yeah, bit to get through today. Hello everyone, nice to be with you again, as I said. A couple of little admin notices before we really get into it, things from the past that have rebounded back. Remember that as of the 20th of June, well, that date's for 2 days really. One was the last day for furloughing new staff under the old scheme, but also we are now into the period at which the deferral payment period for VAT has now passed. So from the next VAT return you put in, your clients are going to have to pay their VAT or make arrangements for a time to pay. So it was the March, April, May. It was the end of April, I think, was the last VAT return, so that you could defer. So any VAT returns from the end of May, which were put in at the end of June or by the 7th of July, have to be paid. But just to remind you about that if you've missed it. We spoke over the last couple of weeks about what HMRC are likely to do with any fraudulent claims. Now, there's not very much information coming out on that, but Jim Harrow, who's CEO at HMRC, was asked to go before the Treasury Select Committee and answer various questions. They were looking at particularly about benefits in general. It wasn't just the CJRS benefit. And interesting enough, if I can find it, one little bit of information I've got, if I can find it, no I can't at the moment, is the vast amount of benefits that are given out, benefits and reliefs that are given out by HMRC, by the government, to us on a normal basis. Now that includes things like the personal allowances, £12,500 a year for everybody. And I know I've written it down here somewhere and I can't see it at the moment. Never mind, doesn't matter, it's a lot of money. And the questions that came up, both from the chair of the committee and some of the MPs that were sitting on the committee, were to do with what is HMRC going to do about checking up on fraudulent claims. And what they've said is that there are several, as we know, several checks in place when we started. So when you set up your CJRS claim, you had to have your PAYE, everything was checked. You had to have RTI submitted before the 19th of March and various things like that. And at some stage, they are going to check back against the amount submitted by RTI. And we're going to have a look at that when we talk about the new flexible scheme a bit more in a moment. But what did come out of that is that they have, as you're probably aware, there is a whistleblowing line for individuals to ring HMRC where they feel that there is a problem. Now that could be that they're being asked to work when they're furloughed. And we know of some fairly high profile companies that against whom that accusation has been raised, although not proven. And that maybe people are claiming CJRS grants but not passing them on to staff, etc., etc. Now, so far, they have found 800 cases which they think they're going to have to investigate fully with the employer, which may not seem a very large number in that, but that's about a third of the cases that have been reported. But at the moment, they can't take it any further because they're waiting for the government to pass the legislation which allows them to go in and do the investigations. So what's happening at the moment is that all these fraudulent claims are just sitting in HMRC. And the minute the legislation is passed, they will start to look into this quite heavily, I think, because they've got to try and get some of this money back if it's fraudulent. If you're doing your CJRS claims, at the moment, where you will find that I think there's a new button on there which says, have you overpaid in previous claims? spoke to a member this morning or yesterday about this, and if you feel you have made an overclaim, there is a button which you can press that allows you to adjust any future claims downwards to repay that overclaim. And if you're not making another claim, then that means that they will get in touch with you to find out how you're going to pay that. If you've underclaimed, you'll have to ring them. I think we did talk about this last Friday, but that's been confirmed. And one of our members that I spoke to who was doing a claim online rang me to say, yeah, there is a button there and you do have to go through various bits and pieces. The big thing that's happened today is that the government have issued the formal legislation which covers the flexible furlough scheme. Now, I'm not particularly good at ploughing through the detail of government legislation because half of it I don't understand, and I try and read it 5 times. And I have to say, there was a lady, a member I was speaking to yesterday, who had spoken to I think she'd listened to one of the webinars, and she's a very experienced member. She's one of our, I think she's actually one of our branch chairs, very experienced member who sat and watched one of these webinars. And I have to say, her view was she came up far more confused than when she went in. So she wasn't terribly clear on what we were supposed to do. But having read the legislation this morning, picked out the bits that I understood that I felt were relevant, I think what we've discussed so far, we've got it correct. So no major changes over and above what we've already discussed. Just a reminder that on flexible furlough, you still can't work during your furloughed hours. You can work part-time, furlough part-time. There has to be an agreement between the employer and the employees to the number of hours that are going to be worked. Like all legislation for employment, HR type things, it has to be done in agreement, which is nothing more than happened at the start of the legislation period. The biggest change is the way you claim. Now, it's very specific, and I think somebody might have mentioned this in a question last week. You claim for a calendar, within a calendar month. So your claims will go basically, if you're claiming monthly, from the beginning to the end of the month, rather than spreading over 2 months. It has to be claimed by the end of each month. So your claim form has to begin and end in the same month. You can't straddle a month end. And your furlough period has to include 7 or more consecutive days. Now, I think you can still claim weekly, but it still has to be between the first of the month and the last day of the month. So you might get 3 claims in, you might get 4 claims in, you might get 1 claim in. And you can claim for a minimum of 7 days. However, if that 7 days crosses across a month end, you can do what's called an orphan claim. Now, what an orphan claim is that you might have up to 6 days in one period and 1 day, or 5 and 2. You claim them in 2 separate periods, and providing by the end of the claim form there's a minimum of 7 days, then you're fine. So claims between the first and the last day of the month, minimum period is 7 days, but it can be claimed across a month. From now on, there are 2 exceptions to the people who have to have been furloughed prior to the 20th of June. One is if you're coming back from any form of parental leave, so maternity, adoption, parental pay, if you're doing shared parental pay and leave. If you're coming back from that, you can be part furloughed as soon as you come off of your parental leave. And the only other exception to that I can see at the moment is if you have someone who is in the Armed Forces Reserves and they've been serving and they come back and go into work, that counts as a continuous employment, and you can newly furlough them when they come back to work for you. Don't know whether we've got anybody in that situation, but those are the 2 exceptions to the final day for the furlough. So going back to the monthly claims, that means that we have 4 monthly claim periods: July, August, September, and October. No new claims anymore for employers, as I said, unless they are within those 2 exception groups. And the number of employees for which you claim can be no higher than the maximum number of employees you claimed in any one period up to now. So you can't suddenly have had all your people working, or 2/3 of your people working and 1/3 on furlough, and then suddenly say, well, hey, this is fun, we're going to move everyone around and put them all on part-time and claim for more furloughed staff. So you can't do that. So that's, again, they're going to check on that. How to calculate the claim. Now, there's a very interesting formula which actually in the legislation tells you how to claim it. But I wrote an article a couple of weeks ago when this first came out, and to be honest, it's exactly what you do, but mine was a much simpler version. Basically, you pay the full amount for the hours that they're working. The furlough claim is based not on the hourly rate you're paying them now when they work, but the furlough pay that you had them on in the first furlough period, which might be less, because particularly if they are on minimum wage, the payment goes at the new minimum wage came in on the 1st of April, but the furlough is based on the old minimum wage, which was prior to the 31st. Of course, you can pay them more if you want to, but you can't claim any more than that on the furlough. So if you decide you want to pay them at the new rate on minimum wage for when they're furloughed, you can still only claim 80% of the original. So as I understand the legislation, the calculation of the amount you can claim for, say, a week or a month is exactly the same. It's 80% of your salary with a maximum of £2,500. But you have to pro-rata it. So in July, ignoring what happens in August at the moment for national insurance and pension. So in July, you take their wage that they would be getting if they were fully furloughed, pay them the normal bit, but then you take that furloughed wage and you pro-rata it by the number of hours they're furloughed divided by the total number of hours in the week. So if they're keep it very simple. If they're, let's say their 80% wage is £400 a week, very simple. And they work 40 hours a week and you work them, they work for 20 hours, it's 20/40ths of their furloughed wage is what you can claim. Now I will put this up on the COVID hub for you and I'll try and make it as simple as possible. But basically it's what we'd already said. You pay them for the hours they're being furloughed at the furloughed rate. It's just that HMRC have got some complicated calculations. The calculator has been updated on the HMRC website. So if you want to put things in there, then calculations in there, then you can. But I think what's going to happen is if you've already done the hard work of working out the furloughed wage, keep that wage exactly the same and then pro-rata it for the number of hours they're not working under their normal working week if you're using a total amount. £2,500 for July and August is the maximum, dropping down in September to £2,187.50, which is 70%. And then again, the amount you can claim drops as a maximum in October to 1,875, which is 60% of that total furloughed wage. So again, nothing there. The interesting thing that I found in the legislation that I must have missed in the first legislation, we talked at length about what is a director's duties if you're a sole director or a director on furlough. And it actually confirms in the legislation that running the payroll is considered to be a director's duty that they can carry out while on furlough. It's actually in the legislation, so that what we said we thought would be normal is actually in the legislation. And
we've had queries on that, haven't we, Jackie? I mean,
yeah.
People have been trying to get away with all sorts of,
yeah.
You know, well, I'm selling because I'm keeping the business going.
It
or I'm doing purchase orders.
It is literally stuff with Companies House and making the regulatory reports that you need to do. There are 2 of them, and the 3rd one is running the payroll, and it's in the legislation. So now we know that anything apart from that, they cannot do. We had one this week where somebody was going into an office, supposedly dealing with emails and things, and we agreed that actually that what this particular client was doing was definitely working for the business. The only other quick one to say is in the email, if you get the email from HMRC, the employer's email that's come out this morning, from Jim Harrow, not me, I'll show you. It says there that if your clients are struggling to pay their NICs when they have to start paying it in August, They must contact HMRC to get a time to pay. Otherwise, HMRC will start to recover that under their normal debt recovery procedures. And I think HMRC are going to start to divert quite a lot of power and man-woman power, person power to this, to enable them to start reclaiming some of those. Right, that's a hell of a lot there for Friday afternoon. I will get this up on the COVID-19 hub, and yeah, that was my morning.
Great. Thank you for that, Jackie. I mean, I'm sure there's some questions coming in. There's one or two coming in already. If we start looking at those. We've had a rather interesting one this morning. One of our members said that they received this very strange email from their client saying, "Hi, thank you very much for the help you gave me. I've done exactly as you said and claimed the furlough as advised." She said, "I've not been asked about the furlough." Now, I would be very careful when you're looking at emails of your clients. Just make sure they're not doing something, and then by sending you an email, think they're going to be able to blame you if somebody comes knocking on their door. So it's the only time we've heard this happen. But you know, I really don't want anybody to get caught with that.
No.
Hopefully you've all got better clients than that. But anyway, so I think that's one we've got to be careful with. We've got a couple of questions in there, Jackie, I think.
Angela.
Angela Pfizer. Hello, Angela.
Hello,
How do I
Angela.
calculate normal hours when they are 0 hours, but had many rates for different levels, types of work before COVID? So furlough pay is for different hourly rate work.
Well, whatever you claimed at the start for the first period, you will have worked out what their average weekly wage is, because you would have taken the average of their last year, and the rules were that it's the average pay, weekly pay over the year, or the highest amount that they earned in the relevant month. So those calculations should already have been done. So for the furlough section, you use exactly the same rate for working out their furlough pay when they come back. Now, there's an interesting one actually that's just occurred to me for 0 rate. If you are bringing 0 contract hours workers back, not every week, can you claim for the weeks that you don't want them to work? Or could they still be furloughed full time?
You're supposed to be on there to answer questions, not
I know, but as I'm reading that out, I'm just thinking that through. I think I might need to do a bit of, I think I might need to do a different, some investigations on that one. And I know someone's going to ask it. So Angela, at the moment, I would still go with the hourly rate that you calculated for the full-time furlough.
We have one from Christine Appling. Hi, Christine. Hi, Jackie. Thank you for another helpful update. One of my clients is currently looking at whether they may need to make redundancies as their workload going forward will be lower as they provide a service to schools. The employees are on furlough at the moment. If they have to make redundancies, how does this work with the JRS re-notice period?
As far as I am aware, and employment law is certainly not my thing, but I think from the input we've had from the 2 payroll specialists that have been on here, the redundancy works in the normal way. So you have to go through normal redundancy processes, and you can still claim, this I do know, you can still claim the furlough rate while they're in their notice period. The one thing I'm not sure about, and you might have to look this up, is whether during the redundancy period they have to top it up to what their normal pay would be, like we do for holiday pay. But that I'm not sure about. But certainly the actual notification of redundancies has to be carried out, and the letters that should be sent out, notice periods and interviews and all sorts of things that you have to do when you want to make somebody redundant are still need to be followed. Interestingly enough, one of the questions that one of the MPs put to Jim Harrer was, what about the ethics of claiming full coronavirus, particularly for 1 or 2 particular companies that they named, and then making them all redundant? Now, this has happened to a number of very high profile businesses in the country, and Jim Harrer's reply to that was, they're not there to look at the ethics of what's happening, only to look at the rule, that the rules have been applied correctly. It's an interesting comment.
Joyce, with a follow-up to what we were just talking about, what a director can and can't do. If a director is doing some repair work in the building but not generating income, can furlough still be claimed? I mean, repairing a building, if they're a small company, is that something you would normally sort of do at the weekend and in your spare time? It's not really work.
I don't think that's a problem, because as long as you're absolutely confident that they're not actually doing any income generation work, because that could be something that they're doing voluntarily, or they could pay someone to come in and do it. So I can't see a problem with that. Can you, Garry?
I don't think so, and I think it comes back down to, if you're willing to put your hand on your heart, saying you were absolutely genuinely thinking that was correct, I think that will go some way there. But yeah, I don't think it would class as it. I mean, that's the sort of thing that we people who run businesses just do as an extra, don't we? It's not something that's part of our job.
Yeah.
Christy, back on again?
Yeah, Christy's come back to say thank you. I think they do have to top up from HR advice, Christy, but that's helpful to know that they can claim the furlough for notice periods. Thanks. Yeah, they can do that. I saw that. I can't remember where I saw it, but I've definitely read it. There's Bev. Hi, Bev.
Yeah.
Right. Good afternoon. Hi, Bev. If you've been claiming every 2 weeks on a weekly payroll, and the last claim rang up to the 26th of June, what happens from the 1st of July if you have to claim per calendar month? You would have to claim for the 27th of June to the 3rd of July. You can only claim for the first claim, sorry, let me start that sentence again. The claim stops on the 30th of June. The last claim you can make for full-time furlough is the 30th of June, and the system stops on that date. So you claim up to the 30th of June. You then claim for pay periods from the 1st of July onwards under the new scheme. And the last claim that you can make up for periods up to the 30th of June is the 31st of July. So you cannot claim in one claim across a monthly period, because you have to finish your last claim for this period on the 30th of June and then start again on the 1st of July. Now, it might mean that you have to do two separate claims. Claim up to the 30th for whatever payroll you're running in that 2 weeks. And if you're not running in 2 weeks, you claim it for the payroll run after the 1st of July. I think that's how it's going to work.
Hannah Crafer, I hope I pronounced your surname right there, Hannah. I think the 0 hours and variable contracts are based on the higher of their average weekly hours over the year, or their hours worked in the same week the previous year.
Yeah.
This is why I use the HMRC calculator. Hopefully I can't get it wrong that way.
It is. It's the higher of the average over the worked hour, the average weekly wage, or the higher for the relevant period in the previous year. Yeah.
Angela, advisor, comes back and says, apologies, thanks. I don't know how to calculate the normal hours to take off any worked hours, because I can't take furlough pay and divide by their hourly rate to get normal hours, as the hourly rate varied. And with no contracted hours of 0 hours contracts, they didn't have usual numbers of hours. It's all down to averaging out, I think, isn't it?
Yeah, I think you've got to somehow work out the average number of hours that they have worked in a week. It's the same as working out I think it's exactly the same as working out the average pay, where you looked at their total pay. I think you've got to probably going to have to average out the hours they've worked over the last year. Oh, that's fun. I hope
Kevin Jarvis has come through on the Facebook group saying, sorry, I was a little late. Missed what you said about VAT. Could you quickly repeat it, please?
Yes, the date for referral VAT is now passed. So if you're doing a May VAT return, which is due for payment by after the 30th of June, the May VAT returns have to be paid by the deadline of June 7th of August, I think. April can be deferred, the May VAT return can't. So that's that one. Okay.
Right. So you've been up to your ears in panels this week, I gather?
I have, yes.
Are they going all right?
Yes, we had a really interesting meeting yesterday with a selected group of people on construction industry scheme. We've come up with a plan on what we think we might need to do. So again, I've sent out an email this morning. We're looking at client funds group next Thursday, and then we'll see where we go from there. But no, very interesting focus group with the CIS people. As you know, the CIS scheme is due to change on the 1st of March. It's been deferred to the 1st of March. Hopefully they won't defer it again, but I wouldn't be 100% certain. But we're looking at how we want to get some information and training out to members on the new changes for the CIS scheme. So thank you to all the lovely members that we do have some lovely members. Thank you for all that put some really good thoughts and ideas into that meeting yesterday. And if anybody wanted to come on that and hasn't been invited, I do apologise. We will be in touch. We had it was a bit of a steering group yesterday. And there may have been reasons why you weren't contacted. So
basically, as far as CIS is concerned, don't worry about it. Everything will be available to them. Everybody will be able to pick all the information up.
We're looking at hopefully designing some training courses. I'm hoping that the members, some of these members who are very experienced in CIS are actually going to come on and talk to you about the effect it might have on your business as well. That's one of the plans we would like that they brought forward. So I said that will be great because you can run the meeting. So yeah,
I don't know who Kiwi 66 is, but I presume you're from Finland.
Says third of,
have you got that one?
Yeah, HMR webinar says that the weekend in 3rd of July furlough claims will be 2 separate claims. Yes, if you're claiming the weekend in the 3rd of July, you've got to claim up to the 30th of June and then claim again from the 1st of July. The first claim you can make under the new scheme is the 1st of July. So if you're running weekly pay and it goes across 1st of July, good luck with that one.
And what about the one here from Michelle Lightfoot? Have you got that one, Jackie? I mean, I know you've been dealing with that.
Yes. Hi, Michelle. A client, a nursery, has hinted that they may not pay their staff in August as they will not receive funding in August. They've been paying their staff 100% since 23rd of March, even though the nursery was closed. I've claimed CGRs for 80% of the private income loss. Can I do this? I suspect they may say that the time the nursery was closed has used the employee's holiday entitlement up. Well, I think you can certainly claim if there's no funding. The rules were that if you were receiving funding from local authorities for nurseries, you could change the percentage of the amount you claimed if the amount of government funding changed. But as they're closed, they're not actually going to get any income anyway, are they? I knew nurseries were going to be another problem. Michelle, let me look into that one and I'll get back to you on a one-to-one because I think my nursery group will probably need to meet again. Fairly soon.
Prophet just says, thanks, Jackie, for the notification email. I've just checked my system and it's gone into a spam box. So she has got your email. So that's good.
Oh, okay. Lovely.
Right.
Right, so Michelle Lightfoot Nursery. Yeah, leave that with me, Michelle, please, and I will look into it and get back to you next week.
Well, Kiwi66 says it's Faye Watkins. Why have you changed from Faye? Kiwi66, okay, I get it, understood.
Hi, Faye. Oh, yeah.
Funding stops in June for nursery, so you would use furlough.
Yeah, this is what I was thinking. So, Faye, just come back to me, because would you then claim, would you use 100% furlough or the 80%, same as normal? The full amount rather than the percentage amount, because you're not getting any funding, so you should be able to claim 80% of it at 100%. Well, yeah, 80% of the full wage.
I think Faye's one of our regulars here. She ought to come on one.
Yeah, Faye was very helpful on my meeting yesterday as well.
I won't risk inviting you on now, Faye, just in case you're in your curlers or something or other. But you know, if you'd like to come on, you can do.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking of, Faye. I was thinking that with no funding, if you're going to furlough them still.
Yeah, 80% furlough.
Yeah, because they would be, 80% furlough, which is what I thought. Joanne, hi Joanne. Please could I have clarification advice? Can someone who works and volunteers for the same organisation in different capacity and has been furloughed from their paid job continue to volunteer with that organisation during the week or at weekends or not at all? I think the answer to this is not at all. Now, the reason for this is that we spoke earlier about a business who, one of the members came up with a business where they furloughed all of their workers. It was a retail establishment, and they're bringing in volunteers to do the work and claiming furlough for the paid staff. And it was agreed then, I think I got some advice that you cannot volunteer for your organisation if you're under furlough. And I've got a funny feeling that that is still going to apply even if you're doing something completely different. Anyone else has got any thoughts on that, please jot them down. Off the top of my head, I would say the answer to that is no, because you cannot volunteer for the organisation that employs you. You can volunteer from another organisation. You can go and work for another organisation, but I don't think you can volunteer for your same organisation, because there's no, I think you'd have to prove that you are not doing a normal job.
Well, John's already come back and said, wonderful, thank you. I thought as much.
Yeah.
I mean, it's good to have another head on this one, isn't it?
Yeah,
you know, so
absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, John.
Just while we're waiting for any more questions to come in, and just to give you a bit of a rest, I've got a couple of things just to mention here. Some of you were on the programme earlier this week when I spoke to Mark Lee, and Mark came on. He's great. He had a very good session with us on the Inspire Tour, or the Virtually Inspiring as we called it. And we had one of the questions we had, I started to read, and then I realised what the question was. It's from a member who has actually asked us a similar question quite regularly. And I said, yes, I know this one. No, really, that isn't something that I can put to Mark. And a particular lady has since gone on to various bits of social media or somewhere or another, and saying that she thinks I'm terrible for having said this. And I didn't want anybody to think that we were not willing to help members, because we are. But this particular lady has a family problem, which is nothing to do with the Institute, and it's nothing to do with her as a bookkeeper. And it's something that's been going on for many, many years. And I'm very sorry that she's been having problems, but it really isn't something the Institute can help with. And I didn't think it was appropriate to ask Mark, because it wasn't anything that the majority of members, thankfully, will experience or anything else. So I'm about to write to her and just say, look, this is a legal matter. You need legal advice, proper legal advice. And it's not ICB legal advice, because our legal advisors will help with most things. But, you know, I think their advice is you just have to take this to solicitors. It happened 13 years ago, and it's obviously a thorn in your side. And I'm sorry that you're having this. It's not something that we can help with, afraid, as an institute. But, you know, so I hope you will take some advice and try and get that one sorted. So Mark was a little bit concerned about that one, but I've sent it today. Now, Jacquie has obviously been forming committees left, right, and centre, and I've been very jealous, so I formed a new one as well. We are always aware of the fact that whenever we have any form of disciplinary action against one of our members, we have to be careful that it's appropriate, it's proportionate, and it's there, you know, to give a gentle rap on the knuckles in most cases, but make sure that it solidifies the money, you don't do it again. And I've asked one of our council members, Lucy Brown, to head up a new panel, which will be the fines and sanctions panel. And we will be drawing together a team that she will chair, and they will look at the fines that we levy on our members and give us their view as to whether those fines are correct or they should be reduced, or, I don't know, in some cases, knowing Lucy, possibly even raised. But Lucy has worked very hard on our council, and she worked very hard as a branch chair with us. And she has shown that she does like to get things done properly, and she's very keen on good regulation, but also on making sure that ICB does its job properly. So I've taken her on her experience there and said, right, well, in that case, what do you do? And she has very kindly said she will. So she's only just been told about that. It's a new group. This will be part of our AML inspectorate, which is obviously run by Steve Hardwick, who sits on our main board of governors, our main governing board, but she will be autonomous to that and to the Institute in many ways. So she will decide whether the level of fine and the action that we take, whether that's suspension, expulsion, whatever it might be, that we are being fair and that we are being proportionate. So I think that will be helpful. Now that panel will include a couple of lay people and also a couple of extra members. And we've got a few ideas there for people who've approached us in the past and said they'd like to help. But if you've got any more, let us know. And on that theme, I'm on Monday taking a leaf out of J.B. Priestley's book, and we're calling Monday An Inspector Calls, because what we're going to be doing is talking to you, and I'm going to get a couple of inspectors on, about what it is an inspector is looking for, and what they are finding at the moment are the main problems that our members have got, the main failures that our members have, and what is being breached. Because I think it's very important that we learn from those people that we are inspecting as well, what exactly it is that everybody's looking for. I mean, the answer is we're looking for somebody that follows the rules. But you know, how does an inspector go about finding out whether you are following the rules? What information will they want during an inspection? And you know, they come in as your friends, obviously, because they're there, they're part of the institute, and they're there to make sure you're doing your job properly, and that you are finding risk where it is, and then doing something about it. And at the end of the day, just protecting you. I mean, the Anti-Money Laundering Directorate is there to protect you all as bookkeepers, us all as bookkeepers, your reputation, the way you do your business, and to make sure that something that you think is perfectly normal, perfectly legitimate, with the benefit of their experience, because they're all police force, ex-police force, etc., they can say to you, no, this doesn't feel right to me. They're there to give you that help. So that panel will be up and running very shortly. But on Monday, as I said, an inspector calls, it'll be pretty light. It's not going to be too heavy. And if it's a really hot day and you don't want to sit in at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, it's one I would suggest you download. And in fact, I'll be writing to members saying that this is on you. You ought to be coming to it, or at least if you miss it, you ought to download it. We are finding that a lot of our members, particularly now when you're very busy with furloughing companies, etc., are getting a lot of calls on your judgment, a lot of calls on your ethical decision making. But in addition to that, I've often described it as a bit like the cobbler's wife who's got holding her shoes. I know that you do so much to look after your businesses, look after your clients, but you don't look after your own business. And we need to make sure that you are taking time out, stepping back a little bit and saying, right, what have I got to do to get everything now in order? So that's our inspector calls on Monday. So look out for that, please. And a bit of an advance notice here. I'm very pleased that on Monday, the 6th of July, the Minister for London and the Parliamentary Under Secretary of State for Small Business, Consumers and the Labour Markets, Paul Scully MP, is coming on live as a guest. So if you want to ask something about the government and what it's been doing, or whatever you want to say, there will be question time on the day. I think there'll probably be a lot of questions. So I would ask that if you have got a question for the Minister, if you would like to send those in advance, I will have a list of those. They won't be doctored. I'll just put them all out there and get through as many as we can. But let me have any, please, that you have. So Paul Scully, and I presume you can see this. That is Mr. Scully, and he will be coming on live. So it's not recorded. It's not doctored. He has said that he will trust our bookkeepers and he's happy to answer live. So he will be on as well. And I think where are we now? Yes, that was the other. I need your help on another matter, actually. I'm not sure whether we will be locked down for much longer, or we will have a peak, or hopefully we don't, or anything else is going to happen. How many of you, if we ran a physical conference still in November, would come? I'd like you to think about that. And if you can drop me a note and say, yes, I would come, or no, I wouldn't. Because we have to make that decision within the next couple of days. We've reserved the hotel. Everything is ready to go. We're talking to our sponsors now to see if they would now come back out and put on their fantastic exhibits that they always do. But we also need to know from you. I know it's a long way away, and really the way things are happening at the moment, things are happening so quickly. And whether or not we'll be socially distancing or just treating it like a Bournemouth beach or a Liverpool street party, I don't know. But could you let me know what your thoughts are? Because this is quite a difficult one. It's a big decision for us. We put out a lot of effort into getting Summit right, and I'd just like to know what you're thinking. Thank you for that. Whatever happens that week, which is Monday the 16th to Friday the 20th, it is Global Bookkeeping Week. So we will be doing something. And even if we do a physical conference, I think we'll still do a virtual conference along with it so that people can pick that up later. Don't forget, on the 18th, it's Razor Cup Day. That's when we celebrate all the hard work you're doing at the moment. I'm hoping by Wednesday the 18th, everybody still remembers all the hard work they did. It might all be gone. It might be even worse by then. Who knows? We've got no idea. But so don't forget that. We will have some extra things that you can purchase along the way, some t-shirts and various other things that we're putting together specifically to mark Razor Cup Day and Razor Cup to our bookkeeping heroes, etc., etc. I noticed that some other bodies have tried to get in on this one, and one of them has done Have a Cup of Tea with us, and various other things. So ours has been going for nearly 20 years, so I think we can definitely stamp our name on Global Bookkeeping Week and on Razor Cup Day. But I think we're okay. We've been in there for a while.
Garry, can I just dive in there? You've got two messages. Suzanne and Steph have said they'll come, and they just a little poll up on the screen for you to say a yes, no, or a maybe.
Who's done that?
Already come up. Suzanne and Steph. Suzanne Proctor and Steph Preston said yes, they will come, and there is a poll on the screen for you to tick the button, please.
All right, that's great. Is that Sobi?
It's probably Sobi's put that up. Yeah, well done, Sobi. So yes, no, maybe, and right at the bottom of the screen, if it's not showing, is the submit button. But that great,
fantastic. Well done, Sobi. That's brilliant. Yeah, if you can do that, please. If you could tick away on that, that would be fantastic. And you know, we've got to show what we're doing for the profession. You know, that's what it's all about. And celebration. That's good.
Lisa's come back and said no, she couldn't come, but it was nothing to do with COVID.
Oh right. Okay. Okay, well, other people, you know, we appreciate there's always something up. Usher says, hi, Garry. Hi, Usher.
And Judith has come back with, might it be good to move it to spring 2021?
Ooh, a lot going on next year because it's our 25th anniversary next year. So, you know, we're going to bring a few old members out, dust them down and put them up here. You know, we might even get somebody called Leslie Ellis back on here somewhere, because he was there with almost from day one, and he's still around, a great friend to ICB, so we'd like to see him do something. I'm not quite sure what. No, we will be doing a lot, and there's a lot of stuff planned for later this year and next, to be honest. We've tried to get everything done as if everything was going along normally. As you know, we've all been available. There was no break in service at all, but we've still got a lot of ideas that we're about to happen, which we've been concentrating on making sure we have the day-to-day stuff right. But anyway, okay, and yeah, move it to spring. Spring is difficult again because, you know, whenever we move it to, it's going to be different. The other thing is that we've got all of our people who want to be best software of 2020, best practice of 2020. It's a bit difficult when you give it right at the beginning of a year, you know. But I know we have a certain training provider that has won consecutive best training providers for about 10 years now. If we were suddenly to say, well, you're not going to get one for 2020, we're going to move it to 2021. Ooh. I know he would be particularly unhappy. There'd be a hole on his wall, I think. But anyway, so let's. We'll see how that goes. And I've got one coming in from, where's that from? Chat. Coming down. I prefer Harriet says she would prefer a virtual event. There will be a virtual event, but a lot of our members are saying that they get so much from the camaraderie of meeting other bookkeepers that you can't quite get from a virtual meeting. So, you know, it's horses for courses. It's a bit like our staff. We know that when we open up our office eventually, whenever that will be, about half of them want to come back, about half of them don't. So we're going to accommodate whatever, and I think it will be exactly the same with Summit. There'll be a virtual element to everything we do from now on, I believe. Yeah, and Marina Runnels says yes, a virtual conference. Yeah, okay, well, we'll look at it. We'll let you know when we have made that decision, and we'll let you know what will be happening. But something will be happening, because it's a pivotal part of the bookkeeper's calendar. And funny enough, we've had a lot of support from people who are not ICB members, just saying, I wouldn't miss, you know, I want to come back to it. I'm not a member, but I enjoy coming to it, because we get people coming from other organisations, and nobody else does anything like this. You do it so well, and thank you very much for that. But yeah, let's get that done.
Okay.
Right.
Everyone's been quite quiet today.
Yeah, they are. I think it's probably hot.
Too hot.
Yeah, Julius Spring 21, Liz Phillips. Yeah. Okay, well, that'd be interesting. So I think probably, Jackie, unless you've got anything, I'm just looking at all my notes. I've got so many notes here, it's unbelievable.
Yeah.
There are people. We've got.
Yeah, sorry.
No, I was just going to say, don't forget an inspector calls on Monday. That will be good for everybody. Really needs to get their head around what is required for the anti-money laundering, because it is an important part of what you do. I know it's not doing year-end accounts, it's not filing tax returns, it's not doing all that other stuff, but this is looking after you and making sure that you are doing things right, so that when the inspector calls, you get a nice big tick in the box, rather than a feeling that things aren't quite going to plan. And I've said about the summit, so that's Monday for next week. Really, don't forget your questions for the Minister, Paul Scully. That's a week on Monday. So you've got a bit of time, but if you could get any questions in, I'm not sure. Any answers on small business, consumers, labour markets. You know, he's got a tough job, and he has very kindly agreed to spend some time with us. And we were going to have him a little bit earlier, but then we couldn't quite work it all out. But yeah, and I'm very, very impressed that he's come alive and risking you all.
Gary, there's a comment from Paul Ingram. Hi, Paul, says, not sure what the restrictions will be by November. At the moment, a virtual conference is better than nothing. And there is a lovely comment from Angela Visor, who put a comment up earlier. I'm not a member, but this ICB TV has been much better than what my association has offered. Thank you all for the great information. That's lovely. Thank you very much, Angela.
Angela, yeah, lovely. And if you loved it that much, why not join? Anyway, that's not the reason we do this. I mean, the thing is, as an institute, we're often asked for help and advice by non-members, because they think institute means that we speak for the profession. Well, we've always thought we spoke for the profession, and that's why we give advice. So we're very happy for you to be with us. And, you know, we have lots of other benefits, not just ICB TV, but we like people to come to us because they want to, not because we've twisted their arm behind their back or anything else. So, well, if you need us, we're here for you. And it's good to have you with us. So that's great.
And Kirsty's put out, I really like the social side of Summit, as well as the developing contacts and knowledge, but it's so hard to know what kind of world we will be in. And yes, a big 25th anniversary might be better. So yeah, well done.
Yes, yeah. Well, there's definitely going to be a big 25th anniversary one. We couldn't avoid that. You know, I can't believe we've all been doing this for 25 years. I'd like to say it's gone past so quickly. Not that quickly, actually. The only reason I think that it's gone past quickly is when I look at the photographs of myself handing out certificates. When we in the first couple of weeks, we had our first set of exams, and we were at Bloomsbury Square at the time. And Lord Kintor is there, and some of you, actually a lot of the people in that picture are still members with us, which is great. So I might try and get you all together and risk taking a photograph.
Before and after, yeah.
Yeah, not sure that would go quite right, but anyway. So
I've still got the picture that I've got taken when I was made a member up on my wall in the office, actually, with Lord Kintoy, and I would not like to see the comparison. I'm sorry.
Well, I just had a comment about my hair again. My hair does seem to be causing all sorts of comments at the moment. The other day, I watched it, it went all over the place, so I actually put it into a ponytail. So the first time I've ever in my life worn a ponytail. But the strange thing is, after a couple of hours of talking on here and then going, afterwards, I just felt like I was wearing a crash helmet, and I realised afterwards it was because I pulled it back a bit too tight, So I think they call it the.
We go through, Garry.
Yeah, don't they call it the Essex facelift or something? It probably made me look a lot younger, but anyway. So,
you're not going to get shot at by all the Essex people members.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, well, I apologise to Essex. I like you, our Essex members. They're pretty good down there. But at the moment, my appointment is in August. So what the heck I'm going to look like in another month, I really do not know. I can't get into August.
I can't even ring up to make an appointment for mine. I rang this morning and the answer phone message says I can ring up from the 2nd of July because they're dealing with all the people that have had cancelled appointments first. So I'm probably not going to get until about September. So get it. Nightmare. Anyway, I think that's the end of the comments for today.
So thank you everybody for coming on. Thank you for sticking with us. We've done 50 plus of these, and whether you're a member or you're an Angela Visor visitor, we're really pleased to see you. And judging by the downloads on Facebook, those of you who look at it, we're still getting 500-600 downloads. I think we had a dry day once and we dropped down to about 450. But reaching that many members in one go is good for us. I hope it's good for you. We shall see you on Monday. Hopefully a big number of on Monday for when the inspector calls. Jackie, thank you very much again, as always. ICB through and through. And Sobi, thank you for anchoring. And goodbye, everybody. Have a great weekend. Do keep separate. Keep apart. Don't let's have a spike. Thank you. Bye.
Take care. Bye.